Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Melissa. If you're new here to my channel, welcome to my channel where I speak about different topics in my channel. Today I have another story for y'all. I will be speaking about a hate crime. I started this series a couple of months or weeks ago. I don't even remember. I just talk about crimes of innocent people that died or they were unalived by for just being who they are. And this one I wanted to, I don't think I ever told you guys exactly why I wanted it to start it, but I wanted to start it because I've seen this so much going on with cops taking the lives of African Americans, people taking the lives, unaliving the LGBT community, or unaliving, the transgender community, and it, looking at hate crimes, it did take a lot of years for hate crimes to be even considered hate crime. Back then, I guess it wasn't punishable. So now that, and I know it's probably, we still do have a lot to work on. So today we're going to be talking about Gwen. So Marlon and Madison were sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Merrill was granted early parole in 2016 after reportedly showing extensive remorse to Gwen's mother, who supported the decision. Magazine, however, has reportedly never shown remorse and has been denied parole 3 times since his sentencing. So let's start with talking about who's Gwen. Gwen Araujo was born on February the 24th of 1985 in Berkeley, California, to Edward Araujo and Sylvia Guerrero. Her parents divorced when she was 10 months old. Gwen came out as transgender in 1999 at the age of 14 and began using the name Gwen after her favorite musician Gwen Stefani, but also went by Wendy and Linda. She began to grow her hair long and planned to undergo hormone treatment and surgery. Her older sister said she was bullied in junior high school because of her voice and bearing. She transferred to an alternative high school but did not return for the 2003 academy year. So Gwen first met Michael and Jose, Jerome, and Jason in late August or early September 2000. The night they met, Gwen, she flirted with all of the 4 men and they smoked marijuana together. After she left, Navarro asked the other 3, could this be a dude? But none of the 4 men took the thought seriously. Later, she engaged in oral sex with Madison and anal sex with Merrill. The fact that my child was in the same room as me. Let's keep going. Do not judge. Okay, and then she claimed to be menstruating and doing sex would push her partner's hands away from her genitalia to prevent them from discovering that she had the word pee. If you know what you know. And if you do not know, that means you're not supposed to be in my channel. So, bye-bye. Nicole Brown, who was dating Paul, Jose's older brother, and was acquainted with Gwen, said that she and Gwen had engaged in a physical fight after Brown challenged Gwen to strip for the man. Gwen surprised her with a strong blow during the fight, and Brown said the men were tripping because she was smaller than me and just as strong. She fought like a guy. The 4 men debated in late September whether Gwen was female, concluding that something bad could happen to her if she was not. Okay, this whole excuse of them of Gwen, because I'm gonna call her by her name, Gwen, just because she punched like a man does not make any sense to me. Yes, she punched like a man, and your point is there's girls out there that know how to fight like a man. So I don't see that. On the night of October 3rd, 2002, Gwen attended a party at the house rented by Jose and Paul, attended by them their younger brother Emmanuel, Michael, Jaren, Jason, Nicole, Neighbors later testified that Jose said that night, "I swear if this is a an if man, I'm going to kill him. If this is a man, she's going to leave." According to Navarro's, Madison added, "I don't know what I'm going to do," and Navarro's replies, "Whatever you do, make sure you don't make a mess." Brown said the four men were out of the club together and did not return to the house until after midnight. In the early morning hours of October 4th, Madison asked Gwen to reveal her sex or allow him to touch her genitalia, which she refused. Brown suggests that one of them should inspect Gwen, and Madison took Gwen to the bathroom after half an hour, during which Jose Mer left. Later confessed he had sex with Gwen. Brown went to the bathroom where she discovered Gwen had male genitalia. Okay, why the hell are you gonna go have sex with this? Like, you must have seen what Gwen had, but you still sat there and had sex with her. You're the one who should be blamed. And I'm assuming that you probably had a crush on. I hate people. I'm telling you guys, I really do. Bun was surprised and blurted out, "It's a fucking man." And the man with whom she had sexual relations became enraged and violent. You just came enraged and violent as soon as you saw your friends. Because there's no lights, you couldn't turn the lights on? But wait, unless Gwen didn't want the lights to. You don't know how I have questions. Brown testified that she warned Gwen that the man was very angry, but upon exiting through the front door, Gwen was confronted and forced back inside the house by Madison, neighbors, and Cesars. Emmanuel Murr testified that he also tried to escort Gwen away from the house, but was prevented by Madison and neighbors. Jose, vomiting upon learning Gwen had male genitalia, that began to cry in disbelief, saying, "I can't be fucking gay." Well, sir, yes, you are. I don't know what to tell you. Brown testified that she tried to confront Mel after they discovered, saying, "It's not your fault. I went to high school with you, and you were on the football team. Any woman that knows you after this is not going to matter. Just let her go." After Gwen was brought back into the house, Madison grabbed at her skirt and underwear and attempt to expose her genitalia. He then proceeded to punch her in the face, knocking her to the ground and put her in the chokehold, but he was pulled off by others. Gwen begged the men to stop, saying Jose became angry and struck her in the head with a can of food, detending the can, opening a cut on her head, and then he struck her again with the frying pan. The last words Merrill heard Gwen speak were, "I told you I was sorry." At this point, after the Brown woke Paul and they left the house with Emmanuel later testified he walked to convenience stores to buy a gun and then went to a friend's house to spend the night. Navarro's ancestors left the Madison trucks to retrieve shovels and pickaxe from Caesar's house, saying as they left the Merrill house that the other men were going to kill that. Brown recalled that after she had left with Paul, they drove around the block and returned to the house to see Navarro and Caesars living in Madison's truck. When Navarro and Caesars returned, Gwen was still conscious, bleeding from her head wound and sitting on the couch. Jose became concerned that Gwen was bleeding on the couch and ordered her off of it. At some point, the assault resumed. Navarro and Caesars argued the others to knock the bitch out. According to Navarro's testimony, Madison hit her head against the living room wall with his knee and rendering her unconscious. Navarro testified that Madison's assault was so severe it felt a dent in the wall and cracked the plaster. Caesars kicked her. Merrill was concerned with cleaning Gwen's blood off the couch and carpet before retreating to his room so the others would not see him crying. After Gwen was I'm sorry. I have a question. Um, Mar. I don't know if you have if you had a cell phone, but if you went to your room, you could have called the police. You could have called 911. I'm just saying. I may not even be saying your names wrong, but I do not care because every single one of y'all are fucking pieces of shit. And that's how I feel, because y'all make excuses to unalive somebody for no reason. After Gwen was knocked unconscious, Madison bound her wrists, ankles, and she was wrapped in comfort to minimize the amount of blood staining the carpet before being carried to the garage of the home after the defendant's testimony diverged. Nurbert testified that Madison strangled her with the rope and that Caesar struck her with a shovel. But Nurse was returning from the garage and did not actually witness the act of strangulation. Referring to Gwen as Lita, the name she used with them, Navarro testified that he saw Madison raising the rope to her neck before he left the garage, and Madison later told the others that he had wrapped the rope around Linda's neck and twisted it. Madison testified that if it was instead Normers who strangled her and stuck her with the shovel, and Caesars testified that he never stuck her and did not see her die. Jose Merle testified he was cleaning Araujo's blood out of the carpet and couch as Madison was binding her ankles prior to her being taken to the garage. Merle also said he thought she was still alive until he saw her body in the bed of Madison's truck. It is not clear at what point during this sequence of events she died. However, the autopsy showed that she died from strangulation associated with blunt force trauma to the head. According to Nurbers, Madison wasn't sure if Linda had died from twisted the rope, but once Jason hit her twice with the shovel, he knew she was dead. She was then placed in the bed of a pickup truck, and the foreman drove her to her body 4 hours away, burying her near the Sierra Nevada mountains in shallow grave in El Dorado National Forest near Surf Fork Road in El Dorado Country. On the way home, they purchased breakfast at McDonald's drive-thru window. Later that morning, in doing a phone conversation, Brown also said what happened, to which he replied, "Let's just say she had a long walk home." The party-goers did not report the crime, and the assailants said nothing to anyone about the murder. Gwen usually checked in with her mother, so when she did not come home that day after the party, her mother called the police on October 5th to report her missing. Police did not intentionally take the missing person case seriously. I'm not surprised, because they do this every single time. They never do. And also because she was transgender, and also because she was known to stay away from home overnight. Rumors reached her family that a girl who had been outed as a transgender at a party had been killed and buried in Tahoe, and her aunt called the police on October 9 to pass on the story. Police began to interview the party-goers, and one of them led the police to Merle's house. 2 days after Gwen was reported missing, a friend of Jaren described him as appearing disturbed. Naren had confessed to a friend what the four had done shortly after, returning the gravesite. The friend tripped off the police and agreed to wear a microphone during a sequenced conversation with Nora about the murder. Confronted with the recording, Nares agreed to lead authorities to the body on October 15th. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office dispatched 4 crime scene investigators and 2 detectives to recover Gwen's body from the gravesite. The 4 were allegedly arrested and accused of the murder were Madison, age 22, Navarro's 19, Jose 22, and Paul Murrow. Paul Murrow was released after Brown had Emmanuel Murrow told the police that he had left the scene with them. Madison, Navarro, and Jose were charged with murder on October 17th and held without bail. On October 24, Navarro pleaded not guilty. Madison was still looking for an attorney, and Jose was still reviewing the evidence against him. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, Murrow was confident that the charges would be dropped. After he was arrested, neighbor wrote a letter to a girlfriend in which he stated the defense had discussed a Sopron-type plan to kill the bitch and get rid of her body. The letter was separated by sheriff officer and led to the arrest of Caesars on November 19th. Caesar had been identified as a potential witness on October 22nd. At the first trial, defense attorney Tony Serra accused Navarro of writing the letter, knowing it would be separated and implacked in Caesars. So, Navarro pled guilty on February 24th of 2003 to a lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter, which carried an 11-year prison sentence along with a prison promise to testify against the other three defendants. During the former entry of his plea, Judge Ken Burr warned Navarro that he could still be charged with murder if prosecutor found he was not living up to our end of the bargain. During the February 2003 indictment proceeding, neighbor gave a detailed amount of the murder and burial. As they were burying her, the man continued to disparage her. Navarro testified that he stated he couldn't believe that someone would ever do that, would be that deceitful, and that Jose added he was so mad he couldn't still kick her a couple more times. Navarro received an 11-year sentence in August 25th of 2006 with credit for time served. He was expected to spend approximately 5 years in jail from that point on. Before the first trial, the prosecutor attorney Alameda County Deputy District Attorney Chris Lamar argued that simply being a transgender should not have been a death sentence. Jury selection for the trial on Madison, Jose, and Mel and Caesars began in March 15th of 2004. Prospective jurors were asked if they knew any lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender people whenever they knew and recently married same-sex couples, whether they had met any transgender people, or whether they had seen, movie, or typically performs despite the activities of a transgender person. One of the defendant's attorney explained the last question had specifically asked if prospective jurors had watched the film Boys Don't Cry on the play The Lamar Project, but was changed over defense concern that by saying this specific, those who had not would be promoted to watch them. The first trial began on April 14th in 2004. Prosecuting attorney Lamar demanded Gwen using male pronouns and her birth name to refer to her, saying the defense had decided that the ways of Eddie's sense of description were death. In this opening statement, the defense attorney from Madison argued that he should not be charged with murder rather than manslaughter at worst under California law. Madison attorney said that his client was not no biased but had been shocked beyond reason to learn that had unwittingly had sex with the man, inviting me of the gay panic defense. During his testimony, Navarro said he left his friends and had been raped since Gwen, whom he referred to as Mel, did not come clean with being what he really was. I feel like he forced them into homosexual sex, and my definition of rape was being forced into sex. When they asked how she forced them, Navarro answered through disputation. Just because she did not tell you what she had down there does not make it rape. Oh my God. The first trial ended in a mistrial on June 22nd, following 9 days of deliberation, when the jurors were unable to reach a unanimous decision for the three men. While the jury agreed that Gwen had been murdered, they could not agree whether it was permitted. The final vote was 10-2 in favor of Quentin Merrill and Garza first-degree murder, and 7-5 in favor of convicting Madison at first-degree murder. Although they were given the option of convicting the men of second-degree murder or manslaughter, they were unable to proceed to pass first-degree murder deliberations. One of the juries wrote newspapers article after the mistrial, and it credited Caesar's defense attorney Tony Serra with introducing enough reasonable doubt about the verities of the prosecution witness, including both Brown, who admitted to consuming more than a dozen beers that night, and Navarro, who was characterized as a liar and chameleon promo to extension, eager to please in every social situation. The second trial began on May 31st, 2005. publicly by transgender activists credited with the information that the public about the tactics the defense lawyer had adopted to blame Gwen for her own death, changing the approach to the case. The day after the first trial ended in mistrial, a court granted Gwen's mother petition for post-mortem name change and requiring the defense lawyers to refer to the victim with the female pronouns. Madison, Merrill, and Garcia were charged with first-degree murder with the hate crime in menacings. The three defendants testified in the trial and blamed each other as well as Navarro's. Navarro testified for the prosecution, stated that Madison admitted to standing when Merrill testified that Navarro was responsible for the major head injury to who Gwen's bus supported the assertion that Madison had strangled her. Madison testified that Navarro admitted he had strangled Gwen. During the Madison testimony, a tape of his interview with the police was shown in which an investigator was recorded coaching him to use the trans panic defense. You'll be surprised, Mom, especially moms, if they knew the facts. You'll be surprised. During the closing statement of the second trial, Caesar's defense lawyer, Tony Serra, argued that the three defendants were original human beings who were guilty at most of manslaughter for their role in the death of a classic state of hate and passionate. Sarah also argued that Caesars took not an active role in killing her. To avoid a second mistrial, prosecutor attorney Chris Lamore argued for a first-degree murder conviction, but gave jury the option of second-degree murder conviction for the three or even manslaughter for Merle. He asked the jury to return first-degree murder conviction of Madison and Caesar, fingering Madison as the main culprit who had strangled Gwen and calling him a poor excuse of a man, with a stupid market list of accused of murdering her. On September 8th, the jury announced that it had reached a verdict, and on two of three defense, as Judge Harry Shaper introduced, the verdicts were kept secrets. On September 12th, after a week of deliberation, the jury announced his verdict. It had deadlocked on Caesar's voting 93 in favor of convicting him for murder. Madison and Murray were each convicted on the charges of second-degree murder, but not convicted of the hate crime intentions allegations. After the trial, one of the jurors stated in an interview with San Francisco Chronicle that the murder conviction was because the community standard is not and cannot be that killing is something a responsible person would have done that night, but not the hate crime, since the murder was believed to have been committed not because Gwen was transgender, but to cover up the situation that he had gotten out of control. No, ma'am, or sir, whatever. No, they committed the crime because she was a transgender person. This person has to be white. Lamar had been undetermined criminal intended by community. Gwen being transgender was not a perfect act. It's who she was. However, I would not further ignore the reality that Gwen made some decisions in relation with the defense that were impossible to defend. I don't think most juries are going to think it's okay to engage someone in sexual activity knowing they assume you have one sexual anomaly and then you don't. Michael, Madison, and Jose were sentenced in January to 15 years to life in prison for second-degree murder. While Murray expressed deep sorrow and regret to Gwen's family, Madison was angry about his verdict and expressed no remorse for his role on murdering Gwen, according to presiding Judge Harry Shaper. To avoid a third trial, Caesar pleaded no contest to manslaughter on December 16th of 2005 and was sentenced to 6 years in prison, with credit for time already served. Attorney Gloria Lesch represented Gwen's family. Caesars asked to begin serving his sentence after the birth of his third child, scheduled for March or April 2006, which was granted. Although Lamar noted, it is difficult for me to entertain a request like that when Gwen is dead. According to Lamar, Caesar was willing to plead guilty to being an accessory after the fact, but that deal was rejected because the sentence was just 3 years and admitted no publicity in the murder. So Gwen was mourned in the public funeral at the Sunwood Catholic Church in October 25th in 2002. Fred Fells and the members of Fells Westport Baptist Church promised to pickle the funeral, but did not. There were people there that picked with signs, but friends wore angels' wings to block the casket from the signs. She was cremated, and her mother Sylvia retained the urn with her ashes. Provisions of Comprehensive Health and Society Service Program for Transgender People in Alameda County was founded in 2002 and operated by Tree City Health Center after the murder of Gwen. At the request of Guerrero, a judge posthumously changed the victim's legal name to Gwen Amber Rose Guerrero on June 23, 2004. Amber Rose was the name Guerrero had chosen before her child was born. In the event, it was a girl. On the first anniversary of the murder, Arizona Foundation created the Gwen Era Memorial Fund for Transgender Education. The fund's purpose was to support school-based programs in the Knight County Bay Area that promote understanding of a transgender people and issued through annual grants. Though this sent fund, Sylvia and her family spoke in middle and high school about transgender awareness and understanding. By 2005, Guerrero has spoken to more than 20 schools. The fund was closed sometime before September 2020. Sylvia, Gwen's mother, worked as a legal assistant at Homestead's law firm, but in 2016 was homeless due to PTSD from the accident. Guerrero has been unable to return to work and now moved her belongings from relatives' house using a borrowed car from her friend. As of 2022, Guerrero was staying with her son, but was still too traumatized to return to work. And that is it, guys. That is the case of this beautiful girl who has so much to live. I think that you need to teach your children about transgender and about the LGBT community. I have spoken to my daughter. I am a big fan of James Charles, and if you know who he is, I don't have to tell you, but he's an amazing makeup artist. He is obviously gay. And I've always told her, he's human. He's different, but you still need to respect who he is. So it's sad. It's sad, and I think that losing a child is something that I cannot even I don't even want to imagine. So and a lot of people say, oh, well, grief. It don't matter how many years you've lost a loved one. Grief will never go away. Yes, you have to keep going, but the grief is just always there, and it sucks. Gwen would have been an amazing adult, an amazing person. She would have probably accomplished so much, and it just sucks that these animals decided to take her life because they were mad. They were mad. It just I don't understand. But that is it, guys. I will see y'all soon with another video. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. I know that spring break is over for most of y'all. I know my daughter starts school back tomorrow, and I start work tomorrow if there's something open for me to go. But yeah, guys, see you. Bye.